Hi everyone, welcome to this Rhino and Grasshopper tutorial. My name is David Capetti, and in this video we'll be going over how to create the final portion for this twist cap. So what we're doing in this one is continuing on the last video, and we'll be creating the outside portion to finish closing off the twist. We also hollow out the interior, and we'll be able to also create a tolerance, and this will help us be able to open it up and close it back down. So I'll go here and create a section and show you how this is offset, how this form is created, and I'll be going over all of the steps and also sharing the script. If you have any questions, make sure to let me know. So in the previous video, what we did was we created this cap, right? But we haven't created the offset for the tolerance, for the twist, and also the cap. So that's what we'll be doing in this portion of the video, is continuing on with this and creating that last, the last step, which is going to be to offset this a little bit for that tolerance and create the cap. So let's do that. Let's bring back up. First of all, if this is the script you have, I would go to this geometry, which we scaled, and then we swept around using the sweep command. And that was swept around using this curve. So now the thing is, we could use this same form, but what would happen is if we create it too precise and too perfect, when we try to close the cap, it's not gonna work. And I've already done that. And if you can close it, it'll be impossible to open back up, especially when you have layer lines that kind of create a bit of a tightness that it's strange to even describe. So what I would say is make the tolerance, play around with the tolerance to see what's best for you. But for me, what worked was 0.3. It made it easy enough to open and close, not too tight, not too loose. So what we'll do is we'll offset this curve, which is going to be our geometry that we scale down in one dimension. So I'll take this geometry, plug that into the curve, and for the distance, I'll say 0.300, and that'll give me a slider from 0 to 1 with 3 decimal places, and I'll call this my tolerance offset, and I'll group this and use this as the offset. Now what I'll do is sweep this one all the way around the same way that I swept this one around, right? So all we have to do is take these two, because we also capped it, so we'll want to do that also. So we'll take this, disable preview, and we'll copy both of these. So there's two ways to do it. Control C and Control V. Or what I like to do is just drag it down here, and it's gonna mess it up. But if you just hold down Alt once, it'll do a plus sign and make a copy. And I'll just plug in this curve as our section. And then this capped brep will be our tolerance offset for our cap. So let's take this disable preview and disable preview on this one. And this will be our tolerance offset. So I'll group this one so we know this is a brep that we need to keep in mind. And now with this, that's basically all we need to create the tolerance for the twist. What we need to do now is create the cap. So let's go ahead and take these, do a middle click, and disable preview. And we'll also disable preview on all of the stuff back here. Next is let's come back and get this bottom curve, which is going to be the bottom circle. And so this is going to be the bottom circle here. What we want to do is offset it out also a tolerance amount. So what we'll do is maybe we'll just come back here and do Control C and Control V. And this is in this case it's easier to do it this way because we're just going to plug in this circle into this curve. And if it doesn't show up, it's because when the component is gray, means that it's not being displayed or previewed. So I'll right click and preview it. And now as you can see, this is going to be the tolerance distance that is the same offset distance as the twist. Now it doesn't have to be the same amount. This one could be different. And what happens is it makes it easier for you to put the cap on, but the twist is actually what's going to tighten it. So this gives you that flexibility. But if you also wanted to tie them all together, you could plug this tolerance offset and plug that right into the offset here. So we can only have one input for one slider for the tolerance. But we don't necessarily have to do that. So for now, we'll take this curve and now we're going to do the cap thickness. So now let's take that curve and let's offset it again. Offset curve. And we'll use the distance to create the thickness of the cap. So I'll do 2.000. This way I get a slider with 3 decimal points. And I can change this to cap walls. The next step is going to be to take these two and extrude them up to here. But before that, I'll create a surface in between those two. That way I extrude out a surface to make it solid. Or you could also extrude this one and then Boolean difference. There's different ways of doing it. So I'll do boundary surfaces and plug in both of these curves into the edges input. And I'll right click on this one and go to flatten. And this will give me this outside one that we can change according to our cap thickness. Now let's take this surface and extrude it all the way up to the top. So I'll do extrude. And we'll extrude this surface up to the top. So let's take a look at where the height is for that. We'll go to this one, right? So I'm previewing this solid, and this solid is extruded out 20 for the cap height, and we already have a Z vector, so we'll use that. We'll take the Z vector and we'll extrude it up the same height amount. Now we can take all of this and disable the preview. And now we have the outside walls of the cap. With this, we can now take the walls here and let's bring back the tolerance offset. This is what we're going to use to subtract from the outside wall of the cap. So let's go here and go to difference, solid difference, solid difference, and we'll plug in what we want to keep into A and what we want to subtract into B. So we'll use the cap, walls. So I'll even group this, And I'll do that for BREP A, and then I'll bring this all the way over here to plug in our BREP B into this one. Now I'll go ahead and disable the preview on this and on this, and I'll bake it to see if what we have is what we're looking for. So I'm going to select this one, and I'll group it, and this one, and I'll group it, and I'll take these two, and I'll do middle click and bake. Now I can go to right click here and shaded mode. And I'll go here into Rhino mode to show you what it looks like with the offset and the tolerance. The way that I like to do this is go to our layers. Let's go to a new layer, call this our section layer, and I'll make it a red color. This way I can create a section and it'll look red. So it'll highlight where it cuts the section in red. So let's go here to clipping plane and go to vertical here. We can create a section going through the center. And you'll see that we have the cap with some tolerance. And what this will do is help you open it and close, and you can play around with the tolerance. There's a lot of variables when it comes to 3D printing. There's going to be layer height, there's going to be the speed, the quality of how you print it is going to determine how much tolerance you're going to leave here. So with that being said, actually let's do this. Let's change the tolerance. So I'll go tolerance offset and I'll say 1. And tolerance offset on this one, I'll say 1. And I'll take both of these and bake them and see what it looks like when it has a bit of a different. And I'll change the object layer here. As you can see, when it has 1 millimeter, it's way wider. It'll still work, don't get me wrong. There's the important thing is going to be the threshold between how tall this one gets and the gap. So if the gap is the same as the twist height, that's where it becomes an issue. For the most part, 0.3 has worked, 0.5 will also work. But now let's go back to the model here. And let's finish creating the top cap for it and also the center perforation. So let's take this stuff, middle click, disable preview, and we'll bring back so we have this as a solid. And we're going to want to offset this to the inside. And so I'll take this and I'll go to offset, offset curve. And I'll take this circle and I'll offset it. So I'll take the circle and plug it into the curve. But notice now that it's offsetting out. So I want to offset it in. Let's double click here and go to 3.000. We'll call this our bottle wall. And if I plug that in, it'll actually offset out. So let's bring in a negative component. And we'll plug in 3 into the negative component. And then our negative component into the distance. And now with this, we can create a surface between this and use this as our base surface to extrude the solid. So basically doing the same thing that we did to the cap, but now we're doing it to the inside. So let's go to boundary surfaces. And what I like to do is with boundary surfaces, I always just flatten the input automatically. Let's go to reverse here. As long as it's more than one. So for now there we go. We have this bottom one. And now, instead of this surface being what we extrude, we'll actually replace this one with this one. And now we can disable the preview on all of this stuff. Including this. And we can bring back the twist. Why? Because now it did a Boolean union between the one that's hollow. So this is perfect. You can create a bunch of different size caps and just use them for 3D printing. Whenever you're creating like an object or something, this will create a connection between two objects too. So let's take this, and oh, I didn't show it in the Grasshopper file. I feel bad. So I didn't show what I did here in this portion because I was in the Rhino mode. But all I did was I took the cap, which was based off of this circle, and I offset it using the offset component. Did the same thing that we did to the outside, but to the inside. And we extruded this surface up to create the cap. So instead of a solid, now here at the end, we have two hollow rings for the twist caps. Next step is going to be to create the top portion of it, which is going to be a circle at the top, extruded up. So let's go to our base circle, which is this one. And it's actually going to be the circle that we offset that's furthest out. That's going to be this one. That has the cap walls. This we're going to move up the same amount as the extrusion for this inside cap. So let's go to extrude or move, and we'll move this curve and we'll plug in our cap height into the motion. Then we'll turn this into a solid. We'll do that using boundary surfaces. And now we can do a height for the cap top. So for that, I'll do extrude, and I'll extrude this surface, plug in the direction, Z, and for the height, that's going to be the cap height. So I'll do 3.000. This is going to be cap top. Then I'll go here to our tolerance. And I'll bring it back to 0.3 for the twist. And also over here, tolerance offset, I'll do 0.3. Next thing we'll do the top. Let's bring that up more to like 4. And let's create a few of these. So now that we have this, we can actually I'll disable the preview on this one. And let's take this and join it together with the outside portion. So we'll have this and this joined together using union or solid union. So let's go to extrusion, plug it into the brep, and holding down shift to add another input, we'll bring in this one. And also right click on this and go to flatten. And with that, we have our cap. So I'll disable the preview on all of this other stuff that we don't really need. We have this. There's something that is being previewed here. And then we'll, oh, this is the inside portion. So we'll do this and this. We'll go to our default layer. We'll middle click and bake. Move it to the side. Let's go to our cap size here. Change that up. Go to like 50. Let's change this height to like 50. We'll do, that's fine, tolerance, do 0.5. Let's do a little bit more of the twist size. We'll do 5. For the scale, we'll go 0.3. So I'm just playing with the variables here, trying to get something that will work. Now I'm seeing that the walls are maybe a little bit too thin for the cap. That works. And then let's do more twists. So to create more twists, we go here at the top, number of twists, and we'll say 5. Cool. And let's take both of these and bake them. So I'll take this one, middle click, then bake. Let's move both of these over. And let's do another section. So this time I'll go to clipping plane, vertical. And as you can see, on this one, it actually had some issues. Sometimes this is due to the scale, to the offset. And this sometimes can be fixed. Let's see here. By here, our tolerance offset, using a plane, the same plane, which is going to be the XZ plane. So that fixed the issue. And what it is sometimes when we offset things, it'll actually, if you don't put the plane on which it's offsetting, it has a hard time understanding where you're offsetting things. So I'll take this, delete it, and let's bake it again one last time for our result. And as you can see, now it fits perfect. And if I delete this and kind of move this up, we have a perfect connection between both of these. So you can make it as big as small. You can make a bunch of iterations of them and just use them as connections. You can create nuts and bolts. There's a lot of things that can be created using this. Now this is a pretty straightforward script. There's also abilities to create some forms and attach them to this. So a lot of versatility that this has. Now, one of the things I don't particularly like about it is going to be that it's going to have a crease here, but you can always, in post-processing, you can get rid of that. Also, hard edges like this I like to round off. So if you'd like to see that, let me know, and I can do another step in which I can show you how to further detail this out. And what I mean is by rounding off the edges of this, doing some additional parametric modeling. So hopefully you enjoyed this video and found it useful. I'll have the script for you to download on the website. Thank you very much for watching the video. If you want to download the script, go ahead and go to capettidavid.com, and there will be a video scripts button for you to click on. There is a $5 fee to sign up, but you will be allowed to download all the scripts from the past, and also all the scripts that I'm going to post in the future. So this is a place where you can find not only videos, but a way to contact me. And I also have other services like tutoring and other courses that I post on other sites. If you enjoy the content, make sure to subscribe to the YouTube for future videos, and I hope to see you next time.